Okay. Welcome everybody to another installment of How It's Made. So I decided to go outside the other day, take a couple clips of a rainy day, wanted to get an idea of like a vibe of a film look, I just was in the mood to color grade. I took some footage, did a pretty good job exposing it, came back, made the video, stepped away, was like, man, I think people would appreciate seeing like how I do things, and possibly you guys could like use what I know and then bring that into your workflow, because there's a little bit more going on in this one. And today I'm going to be using DaVinci's Film Look Creator, which I'm a huge fan of, and I'm going to show you just how powerful this tool is today. But it's not just about the Film Look Creator, it's about how literally two nodes in your entire workflow shape out the majority of your look, and then all the adjustments happen before and after that kind of give it its DNA. So that being said, let's just jump right in, and I just want to explain what each node is doing in the sequence that I would be basically handling this. The way the node tree looks doesn't really matter, it's just the order of operations that matters. I'm going to go ahead and disable this top layer because that was just for the other video. Let's start with this very first video right here, or this clip. Disabling all the nodes. This is our raw footage. This is shot in S-Log3, S-Gamut 3 Cine. This is 10-bit. Was shot in the Sony a6700 with the Sigma 60mm f1.4 for people that need to know what the gear was. We're just dealing with a cloudy day. Overcast days usually have very desaturated tones, and you get a lot of soft light that goes everywhere. Especially when it rains, then it reflects the light back onto different surfaces, and it kind of changes the way everything looks in a texture way. So the first order of operation is to convert S-Gamut 3 Cine S-Log3 into the DaVinci Wide Gamut. So we do that. I usually take this node and copy paste it onto the very last node in my tree. And you're going to notice that this isn't a color space transform. This is a DCTL. This DCTL in particular changes the DaVinci Wide Gamut back into Rec 709, but I just feel like it recreates the colors a lot more accurately. And I prepared another example over here off to the right hand side right here. This is without and with it. So this left clip that I'm going to make orange right here with the orange dot right here. This is the standard transform with saturation compression for the gamut mapping. And then this is the DCTL. Now I'm going to go back and forth between the two. Just go back and forth. And I don't know how much it's going to show because of YouTube compression, but let's zoom in on these bushes over here. Check this out. You can see that these greens are less polluted when you run this DCTL. And I'm going to go ahead and drop a link to the repository with this DCTL inside of it if you guys would like to use it, but check it out. And also it gives you the flexibility of changing the hue and the purity of things on the way out. So I can actually change the hue of, where's the green? There we go. The green right here. Look at this. You could change how the greens are coming out. And if you wanted to do that as part of your look, you could most definitely can. See, it's very non-destructive. It just adjusts things on the way out. Yeah, it gives you a lot of flexibility with your footage on the way out. But let's go back to this clip. So this transform looks better. All right, once I get those two things done, then it's time to put the DNA of our look in before it goes all the way out. So what do? I go to the Film Look Creator, and I made this myself. The core look is vintage. Skin bias doesn't really matter because there's no humans walking around, but if there was, I'd probably be more attentive with this. I don't really touch anything besides exposure and fade and subtractive saturation, because some of these things are a little bit more destructive than others inside of this. I'm not going to tell you not to touch them, but what I will tell you is that exposure and subtractive saturation and fade are going to be the best things to kind of just play around with first and then go from there. Now, of course, there's split toning in this as well. A little bit of split toning. I just enabled it. So it's about 0.2. Gives it a little bit of separation. As you can see, the water becomes a bit warmer. That's all I really wanted, because the image looked a bit dry before, and some of the shadows are a bit cooler. So quick disclaimer about the split toning in the Film Look Creator before I go ahead and move on to the next thing. So the split toning is always going to give you complementary colors. So think of it like this. If you push orange into the highlights, it's going to push blue into the shadows, and vice versa. You're never ever going to be able to do split toning that is pushing colors into any other direction other than the complementary palette. So this is fairly inflexible, and the only time I'll really push this this a lot is when I do want complementary colors. In this case, I use it more for correction because of the vibe I wanted. This isn't where I do my primary split toning because I'll be doing that later in the grade, but the actual split toning actually comes before, but I used it to shape the colors. I would never really use the split toning within the Film Look Creator as an independent split toner. You guys are more than free to do so, but I do feel like it is a little bit inflexible. All right, back to the video. And once we got that done, you could plug a vignette in, you can plug halation, you can plug bloom in. I just enable all this. The only things I would stay away from are the flicker, but I just put it on just to see what it would do for this project. And the film gate, just leave that off. That's gonna make the image shift a little bit every now and then, and we don't always want that, so just leave that off. And that just kind of encompasses all of this. And by the way, you can make LUTs with this Film Look Creator. All you have to do is enable the 3D LUT compatible option on, and that's gonna disable all the effects in here and let you just make LUTs pretty much. And for the output white point, I wanted something a little bit on the cooler side, so I went with D65. Of course, you could change the film look blend and everything, but I wanted a very harsh look today, very stylized, so I just went with that. Amongst the core looks, just to give you an example of how these work, vintage is a little bit more on the turquoise side, like the red and turquoise side. Elated and cinematic are going to be varying degrees of yellow and green, and Osaka and Rochester are the HQs of both Kodak and Fujifilm, so those are going to be reproductions of Kodak and Fujifilm film stock. So yeah, it's very simple. All of them are really good. I just felt like on a cloudy day that this vintage look will look a lot better, so I went with that. Once we get this out of the way, this is all done. Now it's time to establish our contrast. So I did it all in one node. Oopsie, right here. And you're probably thinking, Matt, that's like really harsh. Well, yeah, I did want this. Like I wanted this to happen. And you could recover some of the information in the shadows and the highlights using masks, but we're going to get there in a second. The way I establish contrast here, and I'm going to reset what was going on in the contrast right here. I go to the HDR wheels and I'll make sure that the color space on the HDR wheels is the DaVinci wide gamut right here. Check this off so that it's definitely working in that space. And I'll crank this contrast like all the way up. And you're like, bro, what happened to the screen? It just disappears. And you're right. But here's the beauty of it. Check this pivot option down here. Look what happens when I drag on the number in the pivot option. We start seeing a very exaggerated rendition of that contrast and where it's affecting everything. And I kind of use this as a mask almost, like I'm looking at a luminance mask and where this thing is going to affect everything. And I'll drag it back until I get the most detail out of things and I get the most separation. And then what I'll do is I'll reset this contrast by double clicking it, and then I'll start dragging it up. And as you can see, our look is really coming in now. Check that out. Boom. It's already back. This looks decent, but it just looks dry. We're going to go ahead and fix that by applying what I basically did over here, which is a mask. I added a little bit more pop to the middle right here, just to let the viewer's eye have something to really lock onto. And that really brought these leaves out over here. But the problem with these leaves that I'm noticing, I was like, man, these leaves are like a very strange hue. So let's go ahead and fix that by applying some density. Check that out. That looks a lot more earthy, more dense, more believable to me. It's affecting all the tones in the image, but we are getting something a lot more deep. And you do that by doing the color slice tool right here. Set the density to 0.3, affects all the colors that you can see on the readout right here. And going back to the mask, for the specifics on the mask, I put a circular mask on the screen right here in a shape that looks like it's natural, how the light is spilling over the water. And I changed the composite mode of this mask to linear dodge. And if you don't really know about compositing modes, I made a whole entire video about the ones I use most frequently in my workflow. It's further down the list. You'll see it. I'll probably just put a link in the description of the video. Linear dodge basically takes all the brightest values and brings them up, but you want to be really sparing with it as it could get very destructive. So I only put it as 0.25 on the key output. And that really brought this area out, see, on the middle. So let's set that to 0.25 again. So we got that out of the way. And the density. And by the way, just so you know, for this density tool, you're going to see the biggest adjustment on your yellows and reds. And that's not the secret to making things cinematic, because there's so many channels on YouTube that will be like, oh, that's the secret to making things cinematic. Recreating the attributes of film is what we're going for to make things feel more filmic, like cinematic, okay? And the way we're doing that is we're taking the color profile of film stock by using DaVinci's Film Look Creator, and then we're making denser colors back here. And then we're applying masks to make the areas of the image pop that you want. essentially. And then we weren't just done yet. I applied a split tone, and this split tone made the biggest adjustment. Like, you really see the look come in. If I take the split toning adjustment and the film creator, and I turn this on and off, it's like, boom, whoa, what's going on? Yeah, like, that's where your look really comes in. That's the color grading aspect. Majority of the stuff that you do beforehand is going to be color balancing, but I didn't have to do that since I have a gray card that I carry with me everywhere, and I just use the gray card to color balance for the overcast weather. So I just cut that entire process out. Otherwise, this node right here that has nothing on it would be used for color balancing. Anyways, let's go ahead to our split toning. And the split toning right here is interesting because if I display the hue and the curve, and the halation from the film look creator is going to affect these curves, but just pay attention to where they're at and what's going on. I essentially disabled the separation and the highlights, and I just wanted a lot of character added to the shadows leading up into the midtones in this, and I added a seafoam green. And as you can see, if I drag the strength up and down, you see that curve really coming out. So if you really wanted to recreate this curve yourself, that's what you would do. It's just that this DCTL right here is amazing because it has like safety guidelines put on it. This is from Iridescent Colors YouTube channel. If you go to his channel and you click on the links in his descriptions for his list of DCTLs, these are actually free. The ones I use for the bleach bypass that I typically use and the split tone is free. And this is just a more intelligent way of applying split toning to your image that's very non-destructive and flexible, because you could change the pivot, you could change the selection width of the neutrals, you could change additive or subtractive for the shadows, additive, subtractive for the highlights, and that's just different processes of adding the split tone as a color to your image. And you can make the shadows versus the highlights pop more, so if you drag it back and forth, you can make either one bias, you can have it equal like I did, and you can also enable these options and really see where your colors are landing on the image. And the palette right here is going to show you what your highlights and your shadows are, where they're really pulling those colors from. So this is nice. And I'm going to disable this right now. So boom, the look is really coming together. That vintage is what's really carrying this though, because down the line, these colors are getting shaped out in just these two nodes right here. And of course, I have a parallel mixer right here because all of these nodes right here are borrowing from the same initial signal. So the density and the masks are being applied to the initial signal of the footage and then being combined back into this parallel mixer right here. And as the finishing touches, we have these two things. Now, this is the best part of the video that I will show you. And I have a specific clip that this is even more prevalent on, but the glowing image, the glow on this video is being applied with the glow effect in the effects menu over here, but I tried a different way of applying it. For the composite type, I chose lighter color. And what I noticed is that lighter color as opposed to add is a lot more tame on the picture. If I choose add, then add slaps it on top. But lighter color only affects the bright regions and adds this, I don't know, this ethereal diffusion over it. So like for days like this just works super well. And if you really want to save your bright regions, you can enable your bright region recovery right here and just change the opacity to change the blending. I just leave the color filter at white because I don't want to affect the saturation or just add anything special. But if you really wanted to, you get add any type of glow to your image. If I want to push more of that seafoam green in here, well, you could just push this up right here and right here. That glow is taking that green, and I could dial it in just a little bit more when putting it on the blue side. There we go. And yeah, but I'd rather much keep it at white because the sky is white. There's no detail because it's full of clouds. And yeah, that's just, it just looks so good. And then there's this other clip over here where if I go to the middle of this clip, where is it? Right about here. Yeah, good spot. All right, so check this out. Look how much of a difference this makes. This goes from being really crusty to, or not crusty, but just dry and like really clean, looks very video-ish to, okay, now we're getting that not perfect, hazy aesthetic that everyone really chases with this film stuff. Since we're already on this clip, I'm going to show you the major difference. Well, not major, but this is in the same library, I believe, as the initial transform right here in the DCTL. This last DCTL right here is basically Nyatani underscore HK. And if you guys don't know who Nayatani is, he was a colorist who was in Japan, I believe, and he had a chromatic adaptation model he made. Some people or some guy made code that kind of tries to emulate this model. So I chose my white point as D65 and chose the input gamut at Rec 709 because that's where we're in near the end of it. But I apply this on the end because what this does is it adds like a level of like, you can see the colors ever so slightly moving. I'll bring the vector scope. You could see them shifting just a little bit. Now, the more contrast and differentiation in the color there is, the more of an effect this will have. But what this is doing is adjusting the colors for observation by the human eye. So cameras don't see the same way we do. They literally collect everything. And since they collect everything, what they see isn't always accurate to how we perceive the world. Like I said in my other videos, I like hovering between what is artistic and what is realistic. So we kind of want to sit on the fence when it comes to that, if we're chasing the film aesthetic, because those colors are real. They just have more character, and you're not deviating too far from what is actually there. I put this on near the end, and what do you know, like, it just looks good. I wouldn't choose invert, and I don't know what the L adapt does. I know that this part, that 63.6, just works very well. So until I get more answers on that and do more research, I'm not going to be able to tell you what to do with that. But the cool part about this is, look, it works with all these other gametes too. It works with HDR, it works with Alexa wide, red wide, Sony S Gamut 3, all this stuff. DaVinci wide gamut, perfect, right? There you go. This is a very simple node tree. You can copy it if you want, but like I said, it's the order you do things in. If I were to simply just put it really easy for you guys before I go ahead and close off the video, I would do my transforms first. Okay, make sure everything's all set and done. So we get this, all these transforms put in, we work with our image. I'm not going to tell you guys that using LUTs is bad. Using LUTs is not that bad because like I said before, cameras collect everything, and shaping the image out is a whole process, because back in the day, film used to put the character in before you would start shooting, and now we have to put the character in after we're done shooting. So stuff like this just makes things so much easier with shaping the image out. So choosing your core look on some sort of LUT, or making your own type of core look that you prefer using on your downtime, because you can make LUTs in DaVinci if you want, really helps you out. And then your split toning and your film look are going to do most of the heavy lifting, but as you can see, there is no real pop unless you go back and you add the level of contrast you want. And now your image starts to shape out a lot, right? And in this image in particular, I use this node right here to really tame those highlights, because I was like, dang, those are really strong. So I brought them back, right? Then if we add our density, look at that. The leaves are changing to more of a brown, because technically between red and yellow, you got the orange hues, and deep inside the orange hues on the deeper part of this vector scope right here, or sorry, not the vector scope, but this snowflake, the browns are going to hover really close to the very center. They're very desaturated orange yellows, and in order to get those truly, you have to add density to it. Density has a different type of how do I put it? It's with luminance. It works with saturation and luminance, not hue. So you're manipulating both the saturation and the luminance. And the color slice tool in DaVinci is perfect for that, because we used to have to like go back into all these other curves back here to really extract that density. But now this is just here, and you can just crank one value and boom, you have it. And then we have our masks. For this one, I use the mask. See? Adjust where I really want my audience to look. Bright regions are usually where people want to stare at first, so I just kill these off back here, and then the reflection down here becomes not more interesting, but leads the viewer's eye to it more. And then we have our glow, and on our output we have our, now on this one it doesn't really affect it too much, because see, the colors aren't shifting a lot because there's not a lot of differentiation, but I just plug it in anyways. And there you have it. Don't overcomplicate this. You don't want to spend too much time doing this, because how it sounds and how it looks is really important. So get this out of the way as fast as possible, and then move on to the other stuff, because there's no immersion unless you have your sound down here. And that's going to be something I'm going to jump into in the future, because I personally don't feel like I'm a professional with sound, although I'm really good at using it, because there's obviously people that are more experienced than me that I'm still learning from on YouTube that know how to do it better than me. But once I'm able to relay that information over to you guys, then I will most definitely do that in the future. That all being said, everybody, if there's anything that you saw that I didn't go into detail on, or if there's anything you want to learn specifically from me, just reach out to me on my Instagram. I'll leave a comment in the comments, or just reach out to me on Instagram, ask me some questions related to the YouTube video. I'll be more than willing to assist you with anything that you want to know. And with that all being said, everybody, thank you for watching. You guys are all cool. I hope you learned something. And until next time that I find something that you guys might want to know, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.